honouring all the myths and stories, all the failures, all the glories, stepping boldly forth into this eternal moment. Are you ready? Are you ready? Everybody and everything is one. Everybody and everything is one. Well, it's lovely to have you here, and I bet you, this is the only satsang going on the planet right now that starts off with a steaming techno track to get you relaxed. Well, if you've never been before to a satsang, I welcome you with all my heart, and if you have been to a satsang before, I welcome you with all my heart. Satsang, forgive me being repetitive if you have been before, but I just somehow love this explanation, means, it's a Sanskrit word, an ancient word from India, meaning we sit together in our naked truth, meaning we just drop the personalities, we drop all the subterfuge, we drop all the artifice, we drop all the pretend, we drop all the posturing, we drop all the parading, we drop all the need to impress, that even on a subtle level operates in us when we are with each other in person. And that is a great luxury for us, afforded to us by the miracle of the internet, and glory be to that. It's slightly anomalous that somebody who is schooled in the Taoist tradition would use satsang as a metaphor for this global gathering of ours, but I don't even know what I did at the time. I just kind of liked it. I've always been into yoga myself, and I've spent time with various gurus, and so the satsang model is quite familiar to me. And anyway, the thing is, Taoism is not really an ism. A Taoist isn't really a Taoist. This is like an English way of describing something that is very hard to describe. It was a way of life, and is a way of life that is thousands and thousands and thousands of years old, much older than people credit it for being, that is universal. And although it's ancient, it really is applicable to us today. I mean, interestingly, what used to be called the New Age movement back in the 80s, because it was a new way, a new paradigm being ushered in, is really ancient. There's nothing really new about it at all. It's all based on ancient wisdom. Somehow or other we get the impression that before the world lost its moorings, there was a wisdom extant that was available maybe to just very, very few. And fortunately for us, just as in the nick of time when we needed it the most, it's become fairly widespread. A lot of this was to do with the communist revolution in China in 1949, which caused the people who were the great practitioners of the various Taoist arts, the martial arts, the Tai Chi, the Xing Yi, the Bagua, the alchemical stuff, the Taoist magic, the Wu Wei, of course acupuncture, Feng Shui, and all the different aspects of Taoism. The great masters of that fled just before it all took off to San Francisco. They were the ones that were generally the most successful, because that was the most expensive place to get to. And then after that it was Taiwan. And yeah, the reason it seems that it came to the West was that mixing it with the Western intellect, something was bound to occur, some way of shining a light on this ancient system that would make it even more accessible. And that, of course, is what I've dedicated my own life to. So I could have come up with a bit more of a Taoist name for it, but I don't really know one. So we're calling this is the finale of this present sequence, which we've called Spirit Restorative. Restorative in the way that it brings you back to your former state of wholeness, which paradoxically, at the deepest part of you, you've never even left. It's just that you've been distracted by the world of the 10,000 things, this phenomenon of material life that we enjoy, to the extent that the awareness, the cognitive connection to what we might call the spirit, the eternal aspects of ourselves, is obscured, shall we say. And the idea of this, or the intention of this sequence, was to instigate a movement for everybody to reconnect to that deep primordial aspect of the self, because once we do that, it shifts our whole perspective on everything, and with that, the dexterity with which we are able to manage our lives, ourselves, and so on. I think underlying today's session, which is all about plenitude, a word I totally adore. It's a beautiful word, isn't it? Plenitude. It's got such a gorgeous, soft, it's like undulating hills and valleys. I've been thinking of this as a tune idea, but we must increase our trust, because everything works together to produce the highest good. This idea that no matter what happens, if we're willing to adopt the stance of trusting life, of trusting the flow, of trusting the Tao, which means the flow, the way, the journey, the thoroughfare, the adventure, if we're willing to trust it and adopt the axiom that everything works together to produce the highest good, it will do that, because what you focus on grows. So the aspects of reality that shows up for you is the one that you focus on most, and you can see it any which way you want, i.e., pardon the sadly now cliched expression, half, cup half full, cup half empty. It's which you want to focus on. Plenitude is about fullness. That's what it means, fullness. So it's not half full cup, it's a full cup. And I'll talk about that more in depth in a moment or two. But let's cast our minds back to the very beginning of everything. So in the beginning, presumably, there was absolutely nothing. The Taoists call this Wu Qi, the ultimate nothingness, or beyond ultimate nothingness. It's something that the human mind can't really grasp. We can't really grasp nothingness. And out of this nothingness, goodness knows why, nobody knows, a murmur occurred. It couldn't have been much more than the most inaudible murmur, because there was no space, there was nothing, and you have to have space for sound. And the murmur presumably somehow or other grew in its intensity, and in doing that created a bit more space around it. And then the sound of the murmur started banging up against the different sides of the space, as it were. And in that reverberation, there was a pinprick of light. A pinprick of light so small that it was smaller than a microdot. And yet, it contained within it the potential for an entire universe. That's how powerful this pinprick of light was. That's also something that we find very, very difficult to grok, to intellectually understand. That the most powerful force there is, that the force of existence itself, is actually as small as the tiniest microdot, and yet from it springs an entire infinite universe. And in that microdot of light, there were subatomic particles which fought, or were being fought by, antiparticles. And somehow or other, at that point, the battle was even. Now, had it stayed that way, none of this would have happened. We wouldn't be here. But fortunately for us and all creation and all sentient beings, the particles won out, and here we all are. Yet always, always persists this battle between the two, particles and subatomic particles and antiparticles, the yin and the yang. If you like, the dark and the light, the contraction and the expansion, the destruction and the creation. And it's our role as sentient beings to support the particles side with our positive intention. In other words, to add to the light. And we do so by aligning ourselves with the particle aspect, the thrust to create and to sustain creation. We do this as the primordial self that was and is and will be before, during, and after the microdot and all creation. So really it's whatever that primordial darkness before there was light, the great nothingness before there was something, that is the primordial self of the universe. And that's what we align ourselves with, or that's what we identify with, in order to promote the dominance of the light over the dark within ourselves, and thereby, by extension, in the world around us. And this is not just an intellectual conceit, because what the Taoists also very thoughtfully provided was the mechanism by which we could identify with the primordial self. And it's something very simple, which revolves around what we today call proprioceptive sense, the ability to experience the moment from within the body, as opposed to within the realm of concepts or imagination. And by shifting the place from which you're experiencing any particular moment within your body, specifically by shifting your presence into the back of you, then you become the background presence, that presence that sits in the darkness before there is light, if you like. And today we're going to be pumping up the plenitude. We started the sequence with pumping up purpose. I say pumping up, that's my kind of slightly ironic, jokey way of talking about this, because what we're dealing with here is very, very subtle and very fine. And pumping is a very male pumping iron kind of vibe. It's a joke, really, but it does. That's the idea of it, is to increase by a couple of quantum spurts at least the levels of these various fundamental prerequisite qualities or skills, you might say, or states of being, in order to be restored fully to your immortal spirit self. The first session we pumped up purpose, your sense of purpose, which was to enjoy it, essentially. It being here, I mean. The next week we pumped up your perspective, because you have to have perspective. You have to be able to zoom out and take a view, rather than be caught in the details of life. When you're wandering through the forest, you know, you need to get up high in a tree sometimes to look out and see where you're going, because if you want to get back to the road before sunfall, is that a word? Before dusk, you need to be able to see where you're going. So that's perspective. And also, it helps you keep your emotions from getting all tangled up unnecessarily, so you can still enjoy being here. And then the third week, we pumped up pleasure. That means being able to allow life to please you in each and every moment, rather than default to the self-pitying mode in which you instinctively let life displease you. This seems to be the default mode for many people. I've known it in myself as well. Without the discipline, there is this tendency to default to life being displeasing. And it's just an opinion, so you can opine in either direction. And that, therefore, we did pumping up the pleasure direction on the third week. The fourth week, we pumped up your positivity, your optimism, the capacity to make the very most of each and every moment, rather than the least of it. Then the week before this one, we pumped up your peace, which means the ability to glide with the action without jarring it too much. So you feel easy inside, and you create, or you engender, an atmosphere of ease around you, which then affects everybody else around you and helps to relax people. And now, finally, at the end of the sequence, we're pumping up your plenitude, the state of fullness. Now, I love this word more than I like the word abundance, which I've always found a rather ugly, clumsy word, and somehow has been so bandied around that it's somehow associated with an excess. In fact, abundance isn't an excess, it's just a sense of the goodness of life abounding. You know, it's there for you. One idea is that true abundance is only having just enough all the time, not having an excess that you'd be wasting, because excess doesn't actually bring you pleasure, it brings you displeasure, because it's a waste. The nature abhors waste. So true abundance is just having enough. But it's as I say, I find it a clumsy, ugly word. It's very unpoetic. Whereas plenitude is so beautiful. And words are important. They are important, as we know. It alludes to the state of gentle, beautiful, refined, elegant fullness of everything. The universe with all its activity and all the opportunities, and on a personal level too. So the fullness of health and wealth and loving companionship and excitement and entertainment and pleasing vistas, lovely views, lovely things to look out at, and lovely interviews. So a fullness of all life's blessings. So I'm going to facilitate today, and thank you for affording me this privilege to do so, a pumping up of the magnitude of your plenitude. But how best and most elegantly to do this? Well, it occurs to me that plenitude is not about ownership. And I think this is where we have all, in our culture, strayed in error, thinking that to have plenitude, to enjoy the plenitude of life, you've got to own it. You've got to own all these things. I lived with the Native Americans for 4 years, and I learned many profound things. But one of the very profound things I learned was that we don't own anything. They don't consider themselves to own the land that their reservation is on, or before the Europeans came there and stole it all away. The land that stretched as far as you could get till the next tribe's area. They don't own that. They just take care of it. You can't own bits of the earth mother as they see it. That's absurd. All you can do is take care of it. And when you do, it takes care of you. It provides plenitude for you. The Native Americans individually don't amass fortunes. That's not what drives them. They do make money from various things these days, quite a fair bit from casinos that they're able to have on their reservations through a loophole in the law. Well, because their land is federal land rather than state land. But they don't. There's not one guy owning the casino taking all the money, employing everybody else. They share the profits from the casino amongst the whole tribe. So everybody's able to build their house or do their thing or whatever it is. And they pray. And when I say pray, it's not a formalized style of praying. It's a really genuine, honest, humble, real, raw form of praying, where being in communion with what I would call the Tao, they call the Creator, they pray for their brothers and sisters, specifically individuals who are ill or need help, and they pray for all humanity. They include all of us in their prayers, and they mean it. This isn't just paying lip service to it. And then they trust. This is the other thing that's really clear. They trust that all is provided. They trust in what we call divine providence. Now, not owning things, or not being driven to own things, just being driven to take care of wherever, whoever, whatever it is, you're instantaneously privy then to the plenitude. When you let go of grasping and greed, of ambition and self-interest, you have it all. There is emptiness, and the emptiness can then be filled. The Taoists call this investing in loss. This runs totally counter to our approach in the West, which is investing in gain, investing in profit. What the Taoists do, because they understand that fight between particles and antiparticles, between in that case actually it's the yang and the yin, means that when one force has reached its zenith, it's actually spent at that point. So when a phenomenon reaches the fullness of itself, the hugeness of itself, where it looks like it's going to last like that forever, that's the very moment where the seed of its destruction is sown. And when a phenomenon reaches its nadir, when it reaches the lowest point, when it bottoms out, from then the seed of the expansion and the new success, the new growth is sown. So the idea is that you empty yourself, because you can't be filled, you can't have the plenitude if there's no room for it. But as I say, this is not receiving the plenitude, the blessings, in a grasping, greedy way. This is just being open and knowing that already you are with the plenitude, you're aligned to the plenitude of the universe. You empty the space of the you that you think you are, the you that you would normally describe yourself as, the constructed self, the ego, as Freud would have put it, the you that has learned your dance moves in the mirror, that has learned the best ways to do your hair and your makeup, that's learned the right orders to apply your body products, that's learned how to write your signature, that's learned how to have a pleasing personality, that's learned all the rules of the game of human life. The you that is sort of held together by a complex of descriptions about yourself, about the world around you, and then another complex of related evaluations by which you're gauging how well or badly you're doing in respect of this complex of descriptions that you're assuming is actually reality, but isn't. It might coincide with reality here and there, but in fact all it is a complex of descriptions. So you learned by the method we'll be deploying here in this session to empty the space of the you think you are, and instead allow in the Tao, the plenitude, to fill it for you. But how? Well, by allowing yourself to withdraw into the back of you, which is a martial art trick, because when you punch from your back, kick from your back, block from your back, throw from your back, grapple from your back, you've got the weight of your entire body behind whatever you do. So you're not relying on physical strength of the arm anymore, the leg, whatever. You've got the entire body weight, which is quite considerable, no matter how small or light you are. But also, because when you're in your back, there isn't the fear that naturally will go on in the front of you, the fear for being hurt, the fear of just blind violence and hatred, will not be who you are anymore. Because when you're in your back, you're able to accommodate the theatre of emotions that's going on in the front of you and their associated thoughts without identifying with them. So when I got caught in a little fracas in LA when I was in my early 20s, and this guy the size of a mountain range come at me to swing a roundhouse kick and then a punch, which I definitely, amazing to me, caught in exactly the points where you paralyze first the leg and then the arm. So I had a moment of looking into his eyes where I could say to him, weirdly and spontaneously, goodness knows where it came from, hey man, come on, look, we both got mothers. There's no need to fight. We both came out of our mother's wombs. We're brothers. We don't fight. We don't need to fight. And that completely confused him, and I dropped his foot and arm. I couldn't hold them anymore because they weighed like an elephant. And off he stumbled, because he was drunk, by the way, which is why he started on me in the first place. The front part of me, while this was happening, was trembling like a jelly. And I was quite ashamed of it, actually, as a young martial artist. I had to discuss it with many masters that I came across subsequently, who all assured me that it was perfectly fine that once I had his arm and leg locked, I didn't then slam into his neck with my elbow and do something heroic like that. It was okay to be afraid and be wet like that and just not hurt anybody, because neither of us got hurt. That was job well done. But I was amazed that I had this fear. But what was even more amazing is that I wasn't afraid. There was just this fear in the front, and it didn't stop me doing what I had to do in a really stressful situation. And that's the point of it all. As it happens, when he walked away, which is normally when the adrenaline would stop, or rather would start, that's when you'd feel the, when you're all pumped up with adrenaline and you get into a thing with someone, it's when it stops that you feel that shaky thing comes on. Well, when he walked away, there was no shaky thing at all. It had gone. I was just totally calm. It was very interesting, actually. So anyway, what we're doing is using that martial art metaphor for all life, for every aspect of life, and it works. It really, really works. So you come into your back, the agenda and all the agenda-related thinking, the agenda of I must have, I must get, I must prove, I must show them, I must be, and so on, and all the stuff, the agenda, and all agenda-related thinking is quite clearly in the front of you. And in the back, you realize that that is all an illusion. It doesn't exist. You can drop it in a trice. And that's what empties you to then be filled by all the boons that the plenitude has to offer. I feel it behooves me to give you a short quote from one very charming Victoria Parsons, who's a woman I have occasional in-depth correspondence with about the existential state, her being a fellow writer. I've been teaching her this back thing, and it's helped her through quite an interesting passage she's been going, a challenging passage. And she said, it's just because it's so eloquent, everybody wants to read it. It's there, isn't it? In the dropping back, once that connection broadcasts stronger, the interference of the other is white noise instead of top noise. The nirvana of frequencies. Oh, that's beautiful, isn't it? But I love the bit where she says that once that connection broadcasts stronger, because what happens is, by learning to bring yourself into your back, which we will do, I'll show you the ways to do that in a minute once we start the meditation. Once you learn to bring yourself into the back, which is mostly about remembering to do it enough, it becomes your default position. And then that connection with the deep self broadcasts more strongly. It broadcasts out to the rest of you somehow. It takes over. And then all the agenda-related thinking and all the intensity of emotional conflict that inevitably arises with any agenda. Am I going to do it? Yes, I'm going to do it. Maybe I'm not. Oh, I will. Keep it going. No, I can't. And all that stuff, all that emotional conflict just becomes white noise. So this is to pump up your plenitude, that your life may be filled with everything you've always wanted. Just take a moment now to gather yourself. This is the meditation beginning. Gather yourself internally. Relax. Close your eyes if it feels appropriate. If you don't close your eyes, you'll find a very pleasing slideshow to jolly them along with on the screen provided by Sudo Crew. But otherwise, if you just let the colours from the light show filter through your eyelids and just gently keep it, the light moving in there. And consider the idea, or contemplate the idea for a moment, that you're about to pump your plenitude, pump up your plenitude, that your life may be filled with everything you've always wanted. Now, when you consider everything you've always wanted, you will probably get a rush of pictures, events, possessions, situations, and so on. Bear in mind that these really are mere symbols of everything you've always wanted, because what you've always wanted was this plenitude, this sense of fullness, that life is feeding you in the moment, from moment to moment. Just open your heart and soul and mind to that notion right now, that you're about to make yourself available and remove all blocks to doing so, to the great plenitude, to the Tao itself. As you sit there with your eyes closed, become aware of your breathing, and if you're noticing that you're holding your breath, just tell yourself to stop holding your breath now and allow your breathing to flow fluently, smoothly, softly, like silk reeling from a cocoon, very, very slowly and gently and sensitively, appreciating that each inhalation is filled with life. It is this that is keeping you alive. And then to release the air on the exhalation is your sacrifice to the Tao. You're sacrificing the moment that has just gone to make way for the moment that is coming. This is your first instance of emptying yourself in order to be filled. So you empty yourself by breathing out, and then you relax. The in-breath happens autonomically, and it's the in-breath that brings you the essence of the great plenitude, the seed of everything you've always wanted, coming in on each successive in-breath. And be aware all the while of your muscles and sinews, and start to attend to softening them, starting from the top of your head, working down through your face and the sides of your head and the back of your head and your neck and your throat and your shoulders and your arms and your hands and your shoulder blade area and your chest your sides, the muscles between the ribs, the diaphragm, the abdominal muscles, the mid-back muscles, the lower back muscles, the gluteal muscles, the pelvic floor, the hamstrings, the quadriceps, the adductors, the abductors, the calf muscles and the muscles of your feet and your toes, and all the straps, the tendons and ligaments that get the muscles to attach to the joints to give you articulation. And just command the entire muscular system, all the sinews, all the connective tissue, the tendons and ligaments to soften now. Just soften. And now let's attend to the structure, the skeletal structure. That's like the actual structure of the building. We start with the spine because that's your main support strut. And the spine operates most effectively as the antenna for cosmic energy that it is when it is elongated and aligned both left to right and front to back. This doesn't mean, however, that you have to sit up straight. What it means is that you have to lengthen it with your mind in whatever position you find yourself. If you imagine that someone had a hook attached to the crown of your head, which somehow wasn't painful, and had a piece of invisible thread, silver thread, tied to that hook, and was very gently raising the crown of your head upwards, away from your hips, so that the back of your neck starts to feel longer, and the chin naturally drops down a little bit, yet the throat remains open. And you're already feeling a sense of dignity, which means literally being upright. Allow your shoulders to drop, and then to drop, and then to drop a little bit more. And as your shoulders drop, allow them to broaden. You might like to visualize yourself as an angel, and bearing in mind your body size, the wings you'd need to get you airborne would have to be rather huge and therefore rather heavy. If you could picture a pair of really heavy angel wings, one attached to each shoulder blade now, you get the sense of them pulling your shoulders down and outwards, broadening them. Now if you just very subtly, without at all arching your back, raise your breastbone 0.5 millimeter, that's like the width of a hair, if that, upwards and slightly forwards. It's just a hint, a gesture, that you're rising up to all that is beautiful. It gives you a sense of regality, as if you are the queen or the king of no matter what. And just as the queen or the king sits right back in the throne and doesn't lean forward, and thereby not only maintains a position of power in relation to her subjects and her courtiers and so on, or his, but also, and more importantly, has the spine so that it is serving as an antenna to connect the realm, the heavenly realm, with the earthly realm. And now here you sit, feeling expanded in your frame. Your muscles are more relaxed, softer. Already you can feel the fluids moving through your body more freely, and with them the energy. Your breath is flowing more fluidly, more evenly, more slowly. And already your mind is feeling calmer, I suggest. You now have the choice between remaining in the front of your body, where we are habitually, merely because the sense organs face forwards, and thereby induce us to get closer to what we're perceiving out there in front of us, as it were, even though it's actually all around us. And we remain there from the age of about 3 onwards, not even realizing that we've lost the realm of the back, which is our true home. In other words, we've spent our whole lifetime leaning forward, being people pleasers, pretending, playing the game. Well, now is your opportunity to sit back and be the king or the queen of no matter what. So you picture your shoulder blades, you lean into them. You picture the front of your spine, you lean into it. You picture your rear pelvic bones and your sacrum, you lean into them. And not only do you lean back into the back of the throne, you also sink down. You let your weight settle through your sit bones and pelvic floor, as if saying hello, paying homage to the Earth Mother. But just in case you think that the Earth Mother is just a soft, feminine, easy touch, full of mud, just consider that in a very relatively short space of distance, what seems like a solid sphere is in fact merely a very thin crust, inside of which is enough nuclear power to make us move at 1,000 miles an hour on our own axis, spinning round and round, while orbiting the Sun at 66,000 miles an hour right now. And the heat in there is like if you were playing on the surface of the Sun. It's extraordinarily hot. So sinking now, sinking your way, succumbing to the natural pull of gravity, paying homage to the Earth Mother, you're actually paying homage to the great dragon. Said not in any sense pejoratively, the serpentine energy which breathes fire through the volcanic openings, its power. Meantime, because the spine is lengthening through the crown of the head, there's no tendency to slump. You just feel sinking feeling. You sink in a positive way. You sink into the moment. Now, this also applies to the mind inside the skull, this backwards movement and the sinking, in fact. If you could picture the inside of your skull as if it was the inside of a sacred cave, the cave of the original spirit, the cave of the primordial self, as the Taoists call it. And this cave has a floor, and you normally are up in the front of the brain, in what we call the prefrontal cortex, getting busy, sharing the debate between all the different conflicting voices in the front of your mind to let your gaze fall. Infinity. And here you sit at the back of your brain, the back of the skull, and you're supported by this beautiful, magnificent, hugely warm, strong, stable presence of you in your back, underneath all of that. And you can feel the body breathing. You can feel the energy moving. You can feel your presence sitting in the back of you here in physical form. Visualize the chest, the breastbone, like a pair of sliding doors opening to the sides to reveal in the core of your chest, way out there in front of you from where you're sitting, what looks like a cluster of rubies and garnets and amethyst and amber, rose colors that for you represent love and courage and beauty and all the noble human qualities, emitting a gorgeous gold, rose, crimson, fuchsia light without limits, all around you, within you, and no limits, touching everybody in this circle. You all sit here like angels from all the way around the planet, every different time zone with you. And we, us, this circle, represent the whole human family and all sentient beings, all the little kittens and puppies, all the big elephants and the crocodiles, all the insects and the rats and the birds and the flowers and the trees, disembodied spirits and aliens and angels and everyone and everything that is forever and ever. We represent them. We are the ambassadors right now. And this from way behind it is the connective substance, the agent that connects us at this soul level to all consciousness, to all forms. And you're breathing in and breathing out, and you're sitting way into the back of you. As you lean further and further back inside, you get the sense that what you are is so much bigger than this physical body. And you go back inside, you make contact with this hugeness of yourself, which seems to be sitting behind you, as if the physical form, the face, the body, is merely a tiny pinprick, like that tiny pinprick of light, representing the hugeness of what you really are, which, when all the definitions are removed, when all the boundaries are removed, which are all illusory, when all the divisions are removed, what you are, what I am, what we all are, the one, the all that is, Tao, the great plenitude. We are that now. Always have been, always will be. And at this moment we're not distracted, we can feel it. To enhance the backward flowing motion here, visualize that you're able to breathe in through every pore in your body and your front of your body, your throat, your chest, your belly, your groin, and your face. You can breathe in through all the pores in the front of your body and face simultaneously, thus breathing in what feels like a wall of air, and you breathe all the way back into your back and the back of your head. And then as you breathe out from your back through all the pores of the skin in the front and the face, and that forward motion of the air thrusts you back in your throne. A little like when you take off in an aeroplane and the acceleration of the plane on the runway generates G-force that thrusts you back in your seat. So you're breathing in through the front of the body and face into the back, and you come into your back with that, and as you breathe out from your back, that forward motion of the breath thrusts you further back even more. And here you sit. And what is within you, without agenda, just being, enjoying the greatest gift of all, which is being here. There is emptiness. What you're aware of, forever and ever and ever, is the huge void. But this void is what the Taoists call the void that is not empty. Because this void is filled with the plenitude, the essence of everything you want. Now allow the essence of the plenitude to fill you. It has no shape, no color, no form. There's nothing specific about it. This is the Tao. This is the plenitude. Allow it to fill you. Every cell of your body filled with the plenitude. Every molecule of every thought filled with the plenitude. Just think of all those neutrinos and quarks and all the other little subatomic particles zooming through infinity through you right now. And see the Tao showing itself at the core of every subatomic particle, twinkling like stars at you, winking to confirm that all you need to make this ride beautiful and elegant and gorgeous and fulfilling will be bestowed upon you. As if you can actually hear the Tao whispering in your inner ear, there is no need to grasp or fear for your own bits and pieces. Open your arms and trust like the fool on the journey. And picture yourself on the great thoroughfare now. The Taoists call the Tao the great thoroughfare, the great journey, the great adventure. Here you stand like the fool, the innocent, completely empty, no possessions, and yet with absolute trust that all you need is provided for you. And you're walking along towards what in the far distance seems like a great light, the immortal state after the death of the body, the home that we will all return to. And along the way, you're blessed with a plethora of beautiful views, fascinating views, interesting views, riveting views. Allow yourself to be open now, to love each view, each fraction of each view, each moment, each section of each moment, each nuance and every detail of every nuance, with your arms open and unseen hands providing whatever you need along the way from an inexhaustible supply, the plenitude. So there is no need to hoard or to burden yourself by carrying any of it. Just be open-armed and open-handed now as you see yourself walking along the great thoroughfare towards the great light, empty of an agenda, trusting to receive whatever you need whenever you need it. Now, knowing that the front self will inevitably fear lack, also know, much more importantly, that you are the back self with no fear, only trust. The back self has no question. The back self doesn't even have to think about trust, because the back self is the all. It's only the front self that will experience this fear of lack, but you are not that. And any time from now on where you get a moment where you fear, as we all will inevitably, that the great providence will not occur for you, merely sink into your back where you will feel the plenitude, and that fear will drop away without you having to rush hither and thither in the external world doing things to try and prevent the lack. All you have to do is be in the back and know yourself as the plenitude, because as you know yourself, so life will reflect back at you. But not only for yourself, not even only for everyone in our circle of angels, not even for everyone in your life and their lives, but for everyone, everywhere. See this so for every sentient being. But even if they don't know about their back, even if they don't know about their immortal spirit, consciously, cognitively, subconsciously, everybody knows who we all are, which is just different faces of the one presence. So what you're doing is for the Tao now, and the Tao, very happy when we do this for it, smiles upon us, and it's that which brings us all the goodies of the plenitude, which is what I wish you in huge abundance, even if I find the word a little bit clumsy, and it will be so. And this effect will begin, I propose, in the minutes even, let alone hours and days that follow this session. And there is a little gap here for you to experience the plenitude and all the boons from the previous sessions of this sequence, because we have 1 week off after this before we start the new sequence, which is going to be called the Love Satsang, because love is beautiful, and it's going to be lovely, of course, and make us all a lot more lovable, loving, and life more loving, and make us all love life, or make us, will induce us to love life, and when we love life, life loves us back, which is really saying exactly the same thing in a different way and in a different frame. And that's what makes life gorgeous, is that we can keep reframing and changing the view. And now I will take the opportunity to run with that and say over to Sue Ducru.
Hello everyone. Okay, we don't have any questions at the moment, so we've got some comments coming in, Stephen. Here we are. It's from Maz, who says, such a blessing to attend a live satsang. Absolutely awesome meditation. Thank you so much, Barefoot.
You're totally and utterly welcome, Commander. It's an honour and a privilege to have you here. Truly.
And Ayana says, thank you, Steph. Love always.
And love to you too, Ayana. You're far away, aren't you, Ayana? You're in Texas, as I recall. Or maybe somewhere, Florida, somewhere around there. But I know it's somewhere lovely, so do blow a kiss from me.
And Donna Marie says, covered in grace, so thankful, BD, bless you.
Well, bless you too, Donna Marie, out there in Montreal. Bless you too. You are grace personified, so I take that as a great accolade. Thank you.
Ayanna's just confirming she's in Houston.
Houston, nice.
And
I love Houston. I had a really good time there. It's one of my favourite spots.
And Tara's saying, thank you, Stephen, and everyone else for all this wealth.
You are so welcome, Tara. Tara, are you in Malibu?
Tara says Malibu sounds lovely, but she's in Pennsylvania.
Well, that's just as good. Pennsylvania's a fine place to be. That's where the Amish are, isn't it?
And Kieran says, thank you, brilliant.
Kieran B, martial arts extraordinaire. That is really lovely to have you here. How lovely. Yeah, thank you. Nice.
And I have to say, that's that, Stephen. We don't have any more questions or any more comments.
Well, that's fine with me because it is pretty much bang on 7 o'clock, less a minute or so. And thank you, everybody, so much. The great plenitude. I really think this is something special we're on to here with plenitude. And feel it, go with it, remember it, keep saying the word even. I had this little joke, I'm just going to share it with you. It is stupid. I'm honestly not saying this is like I really mean it. But you know, sometimes when you're looking into the stories that about what's going on in the world, and it always comes down to money in the end, no matter what war it's about or what move people are making, at the back of it all, there's always a story about somebody making money. And I suddenly had this flash. It was a comedy flash, but why does the Tao create this universe? You know, why did that pinprick of light explode eventually into this whole universe? Well, I propose it was to make some money. The Tao did all this just to make some money. What a great scam. And as stupid as it sounds, what's really interesting is if you just go with that idea, nonsensical as it is, it does seem to align you with a more, what do we call it? It aligns you with the currency somehow, with the flow of the money. And I've noticed since I made that joke to myself a short 2 weeks ago, it's increased my confidence in the plenitude even more. And anyway, I love the plenitude. It's something that's growing within me. It does take time, this stuff. And really, the trust thing, we must increase our trust. Everything works together to produce the highest good. This is the sentiment that we feel from the back. So the front part, don't bother with trying to make the front part believe this stuff. The front part will be afraid. It will be. It's inevitable. That's what front parts do. They get afraid. That's what creates the excitement and the drama, all that business. Gives the story dynamics. But the back part isn't in the story. The back part is the eternal self. And it knows everything's okay and everything is provided. And it is. So all you have to do is keep coming back into the back, and all will be provided for the front self. It will gradually simmer down and stop giving you such interference, and then life becomes a lot more beautiful all round for you and everyone around you. And that is my wish for you. May life become a lot more beautiful, more and more each and every moment for you and everyone around you. And that's it, and that's all. See you in a couple of weeks. Come for the love. Pip, pip.
Coming home, that's what you want. Coming home is what you wanted all the while. Back to this place where you've always been free. Back to this place where you can't fail to see. Everybody and everything is one.